Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day, and we are waiting for the tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the interwebs so that we can connect to each other. And it looks like things are working. That's tremendous news. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. We've got a great stream planned for us today. Let me give you a preview of what we're talking about. Then we'll zoom in on the finer details. But we got some big updates out of Fani land, Fulton County, Georgia. You know how things get when we talk Fani. There's an extra noxious odor in the air. And Trump's defense team has now come out and they've turned their attention onto Fani because we've been spending time with Jack Smith in both jurisdictions, the appeal in Florida and the Georgia case. I'm sorry, the DC case. Then we spent some time in New York with Alvin Bragg yesterday. Now we're in Georgia. Now we're focused on Fani Willis. And Steve Sadow, who we heard a lot from during the disqualification hearing with Fani Willis, is back. And he submitted a new filing in the Georgia Court of Appeals that we are going to take a look at because he's basically saying, now that Trump is the president, you have no more jurisdiction over him. And so you have to dismiss this appeal because you cannot prosecute the president. So Fani's in trouble there. Then we've got more because remember this guy, Kenneth Chesebro, who we talked about, who took a guilty plea, but the guilty plea was for a diversion deal, which means it was ultimately going to be dismissed at the end of the proceedings. But he took a guilty plea. Now he says, no, I want to get out of this thing. All right. I'm not going to be accepting it anymore. And we'll see if Sidney Powell does the same. We'll see if Jenna Ellis does the same. Remember, Jenna Ellis came out and cried, read that letter crying to the judge. And Judge McAfee was like, what? Okay, it's diversion. You're going to get diversion, so relax. So he's trying to get out of it. And they submitted a statement here, a plea in bar, saying that he wants to invalidate it because Fani, of course, is totally corrupt. The indictment was corrupt. He should have never taken a guilty plea. And now he's trying to undo that. So we'll go through that. Fani's in trouble. She's getting hit from multiple which ways. And we'll talk through the latest filings. Then we'll turn our attention to Jack Smith because Jack Smith is so petrified that his case is not entirely dismissed that he filed to dismiss it again. Jack Smith already had the January 6th case dismissed by Judge Chutkan. We talked all about that here when it happened the first time around. Back on November 25th, remember Judge Chutkan dismissed everything back on November 25th. But then Jack Smith came, he sent a supplemental motion to dismiss the case again because he really wants to make sure this case is gone so he can start shredding the files. So we'll talk about it because Congress and the Judiciary Committee is also sending a letter over to the Office of Professional Responsibility. These are the people that are monitoring federal officials to make sure they're following and acting responsibly. But that obviously is not happening with Jack Smith. And so they said that Jack Smith lied to you guys at the OPR, and there needs to be a further inquiry. Of course, Congress is filing that, and it's coming from Jim Jordan on the Judiciary Committee. Then we'll turn our attention to what's happening with Kash Patel and our insane Secret Service, because Kash Patel's not playing around, all right? Olivia of Troy is somebody who was on, I think, MSNBC and was talking smack about Mr. Kash Patel. And so Kash Patel's lawyers, he said, we're gonna hit the media, okay? When they're coming out and they're smearing us and they're defaming us, we're going to fight back. And so he's now done that. And he sent a letter in via his attorney to her and says, we want an apology for your lame statements on MSNBC. And we'll see what Kash Patel said. Now, Kash Patel apparently has also been hacked by the Iranians, and the whole stinking country has been hacked by the Chinese. I don't know if you guys saw this one. This is wild. But the U.S. officials are now urging you to start using encrypted apps, okay? Like, don't text your people, especially if you're sending Hunter Biden type photos or Diddy party photos. Don't send those over text messages because what you'll see is that the Chinese probably have them, all of them. So they're actually our own government, the FBI and CISA, are saying that our telecoms have been commandeered so badly that you should literally change your technology. So just be forewarned about that. CISA even came out, and it's a big deal. It feels like they basically have all of the telecoms, 8 of them. So you're probably on the list. So we got some good stuff to get to, and we're grateful that you're here and with us, my friends. I hope your week is unfolding very beautifully. You're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to. We're back tomorrow, of course. It's Friday, and we hope that you subscribe and join us as we do. We also have a great members-only community. You can check those links in the description. We do member-only streams in the morning. This morning, we had a great stream. We were talking about the CEO. We were talking about a bunch of things. We had 3 great full segments, and it was a lot of fun. So come join us as a member if you want to meet some amazing people, have a little bit more intimate streams together. Grab the link, become a member, support our work. We'll see you on the morning streams. Now, today, we got business to attend to, and we're going to Fani land. President Trump and his defense team are now turning their attention to Big Fani Willis in Georgia. Remember, Trump was charged with racketeering, a conspiracy case related back to 2020. We know that Nathan Wade and Fani Willis were colluding with the White House and meeting with people in Washington, D.C. And now that President Trump is going to be president again, he is taking these cases out one by one. Florida classified documents case, gone. January 6th case, gone. In fact, Jack Smith filed again to try to get it dismissed again. That's how badly he wants it gone. Alvin Bragg's case has not had sentencing yet. They vacated that date, rescheduled it for an evidentiary hearing, and we already previously read through Todd Blanche's filing that laid the proverbial backhand on Judge Merchan and his daughter. Even though there's a gag order, they splayed it all out on the filing for us to see, and it was great. Now it's Fani time. She has no jurisdiction over this case, and the great Steve Sadow is focusing in Fulton County now. He says, all right, here's my comment as lead counsel for President Trump in Georgia. He said President Trump has filed a motion requesting the Georgia Court of Appeals confirm it has a lack of jurisdiction to continue to hear this appeal. Now that President Trump is president-elect and will soon become the 47th president of the United States. And then direct the trial court, Judge McAfee, to immediately dismiss this case. The filing states that any ongoing criminal proceeding against a sitting president must be dismissed under the U.S. Constitution. The 2 federal criminal cases have already been dismissed by the DOJ, and this one has to go too. Here's what Steve Sadow submitted. In the middle of an appeal, in the middle of the criminal prosecution of the president, we are on interlocutory appeal, which means the case is not concluded. We are pausing the case to take this up. The issue here is, should Fani Willis be disqualified? Judge McAfee was so pathetic that he just said that she was a noxious odor, stinky person, and was probably have some mendacity in her testimony to the court. In other words, she lied to the judge, but he didn't care. He just said Nathan Wade needs to go. She got rid of Nathan Wade, and Fani's still on the case. Trump said, what? No. She needs to go, and Fani said, what? Nathan Wade, my boyfriend, needs to come back. So now we're in the Court of Appeals because they're both unhappy with McAfee's ruling. Now Trump is here responding, saying, listen, Court of Appeals. President Trump hereby notifies this court of a following jurisdictional issue. And if you don't have jurisdiction over something, that's it. The court has no power to hear it. Here's the problem. The unconstitutionality of President Trump's continued indictment and prosecution by Big Fani is unconstitutional now that he's the president-elect. Now that he is going to become the 47th president, it impacts your jurisdiction. Now, you've said this court has always held, as we talked about in this case called Gonzalez versus Miller, which is not old at all. It's from this year, Your Honors. You said, just like months ago, that it is incumbent upon this court to inquire into its own jurisdiction. So you need to look into this. You admit you said so. On November 5th, President Trump became the president-elect again. On January 20th, 2025, that cannot come soon enough, President Trump will be inaugurated again, this time number 47, saying a sitting president is completely immune from indictment or any criminal process, state or federal. The Constitution forbids, quote, placing into the hands of a single prosecutor like Big Fani the practical power to interfere in the ability of a popularly elected president to carry out his constitutional duties. Saying, even the Office of Legal Counsel wrote in a memo, quote, a sitting president is constitutionally immune from indictment and criminal prosecution, clear as day in black and white. Now, this doctrine has been well recognized since the dawn of the Republic until Trump came along. The president cannot be liable to arrest, imprisonment, or detention while he is in the discharge of his duties of office. After reviewing historical sources and case law, the Department of Justice reinforced this conclusion in the year 2000. They wrote this. They said, given the potentially momentous political consequences for the nation that are at stake if you indict the president, there's a pretty fundamental structural incompatibility between the ordinary application of the criminal process and the office of the president. Now, that's a fancy way of saying the president is the executive branch. The president cannot wield the power against himself, unless he wants to, I guess. Yeah, indict me and charge me, and I want to be charged. But it's like dividing by zero, right? It cannot work. The structure of the Constitution doesn't work, because then that means that the person doing the prosecuting is more powerful than the president, really. In many ways, the president becomes subordinate to that person's process. So the system doesn't work. And that person who is the prosecutor who is subordinating the president was not elected by the country. The president was. So the judgment of the country in electing the president supersedes and overrides the judgment of some hack prosecutor, because that's the nation voting in opposition to Fani or somebody else. So it makes sense, right? It's logical. They said that back in 2000. Now they broke that to prosecute Trump. And now their little sneaky escape on this was, well, Trump wasn't the president when we charged him, but the conduct occurred when he was president. He gave the speech on January 6th while he was the president. They said that that was not immune. Turns out it was. They said that he took the documents. He was allowed to do that. He took them when he was the president. He's allowed to do that. So all of this was known for years. In fact, since the year 2000. But they said, well, he's not the president anymore, so we can do it right now in this secret window before he runs again. Never should have happened. They did it because they're dishonest. Now, indeed, in full recognition of this immunity, the DOJ filed a motion to dismiss Trump's federal prosecution, both in the 11th Circuit, which is the classified documents case, and in the District of Columbia, which were immediately granted by both courts. They dismissed all the charges against Trump, and they did it quickly. Now, the Supremacy Clause that we know about in the Constitution, together with the principles of federalism and comity, friendship with the states and other entities, prevent state prosecutors from proceeding against the sitting president in any way. That came up in Clinton versus Jones back in 1997. They noted that a state criminal prosecution of a sitting president would raise federalism and comity concerns rather than separation of powers concerns, as well as the interest of protecting federal officials from local prejudice. They protected Clinton. They say states have no power to retard, impede, or burden the operations of the federal government. That's an 1819 case. This has been settled for a long time. And comity is this, you're working in partnership, you're working in friendship together. Like the states and the federal government are not supposed to be at war with each other. And that certainly becomes the case when you have a state that's prosecuting a president. We're in the same country. As the U.S. Supreme Court reaffirmed in 2020, the Constitution guarantees the entire independence of the general government from any control of the states. It follows that states also lack the power to impede the president's execution of those laws. Now, under this principle, the Supremacy Clause prohibits state judges and prosecutors from interfering with a president's official duties. This is particularly true whereas here there is compelling evidence of local bias from Fani and political prejudice against Trump by the big Fani, who not only answers to a tiny segment of the American electorate, so she has more power than Trump does. He just got elected by the nation, and Fani is in Fulton County in Georgia, but is acting in clear opposition to the will of the citizens, as Georgia is as reflected by the election, which went red and voted for President Trump. Even harassing subpoenas could, under certain circumstances, threaten the independence or the effectiveness of the president. If a sitting president is intensely unpopular in one district, like in New York, And that is a common condition. Targeting the president may be alluring and an effective electoral strategy, like in D.C., which voted 93% for Kamala. But it is a strategy that would undermine our constitutional structure. Judge Alito wrote this in a dissent. He said, unlike impeachment, the most important decisions in the process of criminal prosecution would lie in the hands of unaccountable grand and petite jurors, deliberating in secret, perhaps influenced by regional or other concerns that are not shared by the general polity, by the nation as a whole, guided by a prosecutor who's only indirectly accountable to the public, like Bragg or Fani. So accordingly, Trump's defense says, well before the inauguration of President Trump even happens, it's coming soon, this Court of Appeals in Georgia should inquire into its jurisdiction. Can you even hear this appeal? You have no authority. That inquiry that you said you should do should result in this court deciding that both this court and the trial court lack jurisdiction to entertain any further criminal process against President Trump, as the continued indictment is unconstitutional. Trump respectfully submits that upon reaching this decision, this court should dismiss his appeal for lack of jurisdiction and directs the trial court, Judge McAfee, Weenie, to immediately dismiss the indictment against President Trump. And of course, signed by Steve Sadow, who we saw just crush the last time we were here covering the disqualification hearing some time ago, sent fresh out of the oven December 4th. So this will go to the Court of Appeals. We'll see what they say about it. It feels like it's a likely possibility that something happens that disposes of this case, given the fact that we were scheduled for oral arguments, I think tomorrow, actually. I just deleted it from the calendar. We were supposed to have oral arguments on this, and now gone, because the Court of Appeals probably knows what they're going to do on this. So he submits it. Now, if they come back down and they dismiss it against President Trump, they'll still proceed forward, I would imagine, theoretically, against the other co-defendants, because they didn't get elected president. They don't have any other immunity. So Fani Willis can still dig her heels in and move forward against the other co-defendants. But the other co-defendants also have a problem with everything that has happened, as they should, because the case has been corrupted. You remember this guy. We talked about him and his plea deal when he took what I read as a diversion plea deal. Fani Willis, as far as we can tell, and I know there's other Georgia lawyers who disagree with me, and there's other people who disagree with me, who say that what we read in their own filings was that Kenneth Chesebro's, Sidney Powell's, and Jenna Ellis's plea deals were diversion deals. So what happens is you get a guilty plea, but you don't have a sentencing that occurs. You put the case basically in abeyance. You come back after a short term of probation, and then they dismiss the case, and you do not have any guilty plea or any guilty conviction. That's how diversion works. Now, different states call them different things. They might call it deferred adjudication or deferred prosecution or whatever, but it's the same structure. You do something with the court, pay some fines, do some community service, whatever, and they literally dismiss the case. Now, that doesn't mean that you were never charged or that you never took a guilty plea, but the guilty plea is shredded up. It's not entered into a judgment against you and the case is dismissed. That was our reading of these many times ago when we covered all of them a long time ago, but that is not where he is letting this stand. Now, we'll read through his filing. We'll see what he says about his deal, but this is Kenneth Chesebro, and even though he was going to get that deal, he still wants to undo the plea deal. So he submitted a filing into the court saying that my charge is unconstitutional. Here's what he wrote. He says, all right, in the Superior Court of Fulton County, we're back in McAfee's courtroom. Kenneth Chesebro says, all right, listen, Your Honor. Kenneth Chesebro is now here with a plea in bar. Now, that's a legal challenge to the validity of an indictment. And it's not a common thing that you see. Says when a plea in bar is when the defendant shows by matter extrinsic of the record that the indictment is not maintainable. And different states call these different things, but you can think of it as a post-conviction form of relief, right? The trial is over. He already took a plea deal. The trial never happened, but he took a plea deal. So his part of the proceedings, the pretrial process, is done. But you can think about a good example of this when we talk about post-convictions, post-conviction relief, or if I was explaining this to a client. Well, the theory would come up. Well, what happens if I learn after I take this deal that the cop was discovered to have planted evidence, right? Oh my gosh, like 6 months go by, you already have pled guilty to this, and so your part is done, but we learn 6 months later or a year later, this cop has now been indicted because he got busted planting evidence in a whole bunch of cases. We look back, oh my gosh, it wasn't our case. So he added that and added this, and we had no idea, and he lied about this, and so we were forced to. So you say, well, that is obviously not justice. So there are mechanisms in the law by which you can reopen the case. So here's what he's saying, right? That is the idea of extrinsic evidence, not a part of the case record that you may discover after the fact. Now, generally speaking, this court retains jurisdiction over Chesebro because he's on probation pursuant to the diversion rules. Now, Article 1, Section 17 of the Georgia Constitution provided that legislative acts that are in violation of fundamental law are void, and if it is unconstitutional, it cannot stand. So with that being said, he says, now we're challenging count 15. This request is predicated on the court's order which found count 15 previously invalid back in September. Now, on October 20th, the district attorney offered to dismiss 6 of the 7 counts in exchange for the guilty plea to count 15, which would be entered, here it is, under the First Offender Act. That's their diversion program. Mr. Chesebro agreed to this resolution, and his guilty plea was accepted and entered by the court. Now, in Georgia, and again, all of that, we read through the document, was basically held in abeyance because he's a first offender. So it's like your first strike, they don't make you a convicted criminal. They allow you to get out of it, which is what he entered. And he was like shocked. I remember watching the video. They're like, are you happy with the services of your lawyer? He's like, yeah, I am. He's like, holy crap, like this whole thing's going away? We're like, yeah, he is happy. Now in Georgia, a defendant cannot plead guilty to a charge that does not constitute a crime. Makes sense. By pleading guilty, Chesebro waived all defenses except that the indictment failed to charge him with a crime. Saying, in this regard, if a defendant can admit all the allegations contained in the indictment, yes, everything that you wrote in there is true, but you didn't articulate a crime. You can have an indictment filled with filled with all sorts of garbage, but did you articulate the elements of something that's a crime or actually criminal? They say no. The indictment has failed to sufficiently say that Chesebro committed a crime. There's another case that says, if the defendant can admit every allegation in the indictment, so everything they claim is true, but there's no law that any of those things that they claim are true is illegal. Now, although this motion is entitled a plea in bar, another vehicle for relief is a motion in arrest of judgment. Another mechanism to file a post-conviction challenge to challenge the validity of the indictment. They say in Georgia, we also have this case. It's called Wood versus State, written back in 1871. We also filed another motion to dismiss count 15 under the Supremacy Clause back in September. Now, a plea in bar is a challenge to the validity of the indictment, and this mechanism can be utilized post-conviction. They say count 15 was a conspiracy count under Georgia law 16-4-8. The conspiracy was predicated on another portion of the law, which in relevant part purported to make it, quote, this is what Fani charged in the indictment, make it unlawful for any person to knowingly file, enter, or record a document in a public record knowing that it contained false statements. Count 15 in Fani's indictment said that Chesebro was one of 10 co-conspirators connected to the filing of the electoral votes to the federal court, right? So Chesebro sent a document into the federal court. Well, this is curious because the federal court, isn't that a federal crime? Why does Fani have jurisdiction over sending something into the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia? That's the federal court, not a state court. Fani doesn't have jurisdiction to pursue crimes against them. On September 12th, this court, McAfee, held that count 15 being predicated on Georgia law is unconstitutional. The reason being is that federal law preempts the state's ability to prosecute perjury and false filings in the federal court, thereby requiring count 15 to be quashed. He says it is simply beyond the jurisdiction of Fani. You can't charge somebody for filing certain documents in a federal court. That's their problem. As a contrary holding would enable the state to constrict the scope of materials that are assessed by a federal court, and it would impinge upon the jurisdiction of that court. So it's their business, not yours. So beyond the requirement of Georgia law that Mr. Chesebro's plea be voided, since Fani charged him illegally, and count 15 be dismissed forthwith, a failure to grant the relief would also violate Chesebro's due process, saying it's not okay to allow a person to serve a sentence for a crime that is not a crime. An unconstitutional law is void. An offense created by it is not a crime. A conviction under it is not erroneous. It's illegal. Here, Chesebro says the charge that McAfee says is unconstitutional, that he pled guilty to, is invalid, and it has to go away. Signed by Manubir Aurora, attorney out of Georgia, Aurora Law. Shout out on a good filing from Manubir, sent in on behalf of Kenneth Chesebro. And that's going to be an interesting thing to see what Fani says. And I don't know what the rules are in Georgia. What is the standard to overcome or to get out of a guilty plea? It's usually a very high standard, because as we saw when we went through the Kenneth Chesebro filing, and that video is up on YouTube if you want to go back and watch that. When he was entering his plea, we learned it was all about the First Offender Act, and it read to us like a diversion deal, meaning that he would take this guilty plea, but it would ultimately go away and be dismissed against him under the First Offender Act. As long as he doesn't screw something up, if he violates probation or gets in trouble again, they can enter the judgment against him, but that's not going to happen. Now he's saying, I don't even want to be on probation for the remaining 2 years or anything else, because Fani is so incompetent. She charged a crime for a victim over which she has no jurisdiction, which is the federal courts. And then she made him plead guilty to that. And I don't know if his lawyers were onto that. They're saying, we're going to fight this later. This will go away also. But generally, once you take a plea, it's hard to get out of it. Judges say, well, you knowingly took it. This is your deal. You agreed to it. But if the charge itself is invalid, well, the judge can't enter an unconstitutional guilty plea. So I like the filing, and I think there's a good basis for it, since the judge himself articulated count 15 was illegal. So Fani Willis having a rough time. Kenneth Chesebro is going to be fighting to get out of that case. We'll see if Sidney Powell jumps back in. We'll see if Jenna Ellis jumps back in. But Fani having a rough day out there in the noxious land of Fulton County. All right, and so let's turn our attention now over to Jack Smith and this new filing, because he's clearly really wanting this to happen. Jack Smith is so nervous that the January 6th case is not entirely dismissed that he moved to dismiss it again. We've already seen the first motion to dismiss, and we saw Judge Chutkin's order granting the dismissal back on November 25th, where everything in the January 6th case was dismissed. And we were very happy about that on that day, but also very irritated about it, because what we're seeing is Jack Smith is running and hiding, trying to wrap this up like no harm, no foul. Don't be mad at me. And it's not so fast there, buddy boy. Congress is digging into this, saying that there was malicious prosecution, lies, and ethical misconduct that came out from Jack Smith that we're going to look at here in a second. But Jack has already gotten his dismissals, and he submitted a second motion to dismiss. Like, really wants it gone. And here's what he said. He said, Judge Chutkin, on November 25th, the court dismissed the operative superseding indictment without prejudice. We read through Chutkin's filing here. But remember, it was the superseding indictment. There were two indictments. Jack Smith's first indictment was bad, so he had to do it again after the Supreme Court scolded him and said, dum-dum, you can't charge immune conduct in your original indictment. So he's like, oh. So rather than having to dismiss the case. He just filed a superseding indictment, stripped out that immune conduct, and then said, this is good enough. I took out all the bad stuff. Then submitted the superseding indictment. So think of that as indictment number 2. So the motion to dismiss was about the second indictment. The clerk acted on the court order, and the docket now reflects the absence of any pending charges against Trump, and it does classify this case as closed, right? But nonetheless, still a little nervous. Nonetheless, because certain out-of-case circuit case law indicates that a superseding indictment does not void the original indictment, like in this case in the First Circuit, the government now supplements its dismissal motion to avoid any doubt that for all of the reasons set forth in our first motion to dismiss, the original indictment, is also dismissed without prejudice. Okay, so like just to be sure, like it's gone. The government has conferred with Trump's defense, who does not object to the relief requested. All right, so signed by Jack Smith, special counsel, so-called. Yeah, right. Let's put an asterisk right there because he's not a real boy. He got booted out of Florida. So illegal special counsel Jack Smith signed this one again. He's like, please make sure it's dismissed because we've been shredding like crazy here, Your Honor. So Judge Chutkan will, of course, grant that, and that will clearly be the close of that. Jack Smith filing twice to dismiss it. Now, he's not out of the woods yet. House Judiciary, the GOP, sent a letter over to the Office of Professional Responsibility saying Jack Smith is a real bad boy, saying Chairman Jim Jordan demands that the DOJ produce the requested documents, and there are some juicy requests inside. You see this one coming from Jim Jordan, chairman out of Ohio. Committee on the Judiciary from the House of Representatives. The letter goes to Mr. Jeffrey Ragsdale. Now, he's a person at the Office of Professional Responsibility, the ethics body, if you could believe it, of the Department of Justice there in Washington. Letter signed by Jim Jordan, our friend from Ohio. He writes the following. All right, Mr. Ragsdale, ethics person. The Committee on the Judiciary is conducting oversight of you people. To date, despite several requests that we've sent to you, you have refused to provide critical information about your operations that would meaningfully advance our work. The information that you have provided only reinforces our concerns that your office acts more to protect department prosecutors than to root out prosecutorial misconduct. Obviously, that's what they do. They investigate themselves. They find they did nothing wrong. Shocking. While we appreciate you confirming an open investigation into Jack Smith's prosecutors, Molly and Jay and Pierce, you're on notice. We are concerned that your refusal to take prompt investigative steps will allow these attorneys to evade internal accountability, and they're just going to leave the department and run away like they're doing. On May 6th, we wrote to you requesting documents related to investigations from your office that you were investigating Jack Smith and his team. There were allegations that they lied to a federal court, that they manipulated evidence seized by the FBI when they raided Trump's house, and that they improperly pressured a lawyer representing Walt Nauta, who was also indicted by Smith. Remember, Jay Bratt was talking to Walt Nauta's lawyer called Stanley Woodward and said, gosh, it'd be a real shame if you didn't get that promotion to that judgeship that you wanted in D.C. Didn't think your client was going to be on Team Trump, but good to know. Maybe I'll have to put in a word. On August 2nd, we wrote to you concerning serious allegations of professional misconduct regarding another person on Jack Smith's team, J.P. Cooney. According to a July 2024 report issued by the department's Office of Inspector General, Cooney, at the DOJ on Jack Smith's team, intentionally sought to impose an unprecedented and excessive prison sentence upon a criminal defendant, and then spread false conspiracy theories when his supervisors overruled his recommendation. Now, we requested that your office produce documents related to the Cooney investigation, or the circumstances surrounding his shocking sentencing recommendation because he's so agitated, probably a MAGA Trumper who insulted his horrific looks. To date, OPR has failed to produce any documents responsive to our requests. We're Congress, you're not giving us anything. So consequently, on September 12th, Jim Jordan says, in light of your failure to comply with the committee's request that we sent on May 6th and August 2nd, we requested that you, Ragsdale, make yourself available to the committee for a transcribed interview so we can get to the bottom of this. On October 8th, we wrote you again to reiterate our outstanding requests. Now, in response, the department from you offered to make you available to brief the committee. As an extraordinary accommodation to you, we accepted this offer. Now, during your November 19th briefing to us, our committee in Congress, you confirmed that your office did open an investigation into Jack Smith in June 23, after an attorney from Jack's own office self-reported potential misconduct to you. Whoa! There's a good prosecutor on Jack's team? Man, I hope it wasn't Molly, because we've been pretty mean to her lately. But somebody said, yeah, we're corrupt scum. Good for them. You stated that per department policy, despite self-reporting a misconduct by Smith's own team, you said your office did not conduct an inquiry or an investigation into the allegations during the pendency of litigation in the cases brought by Jack's office because it could interfere with or jeopardize the prosecution. You see that? This is insane. So somebody on Jack's team says, hey, we're being corrupt and horrendous political hacks. He said, well, that's true, but you're in the middle of doing it. We'll investigate this once you're done being political, unethical, partisan hacks. Then we'll look into it. But we don't want to do anything to interfere your process of being corrupt. That's the Office of Professional Responsibility that says keep being unprofessional and we'll look into it later. As you explained it, the department's policy would keep bad actor attorneys in place to continue prosecutorial misconduct when they're breaking the law, which is acting as a co-conspirator to allow them to abuse their office to target innocent people who deserve the presumption of innocence and all the civil rights afforded to them. Because of the administrative difficulty and the resource constraints involved in switching attorneys. They don't want to replace Jack Smith. They can't. This excuse not only defies common sense, but it seems to violate the department's mission to ensure that justice is done in every case. This is huge, man. Who is this person? Jim Jordan knows. Who self-reported, Jim? After Smith told the media that he was, quote, expected to leave the department because he's running and hiding before Trump assumes office and that his team was, quote, making moves to wind this down, he's running. Smith then gave your office permission to investigate the allegations of the attorney misconduct. So he said, okay, now you can investigate us. We're done. You stated that Smith only allowed the investigation to begin because it would now no longer interfere with his corrupt prosecution. They say this is absurd, that you, the department charged with upholding ethical conduct, would only examine allegations of prosecutorial misconduct after the subject of the allegations has approved the inquiry. I'll allow you to investigate me now. I've shredded all my files. Go ahead. This process does not inspire any confidence with your corrupt office that any of this is going to be independent or impartial. Now, during the briefing, when you sat with us in Congress, you declined to give the committee a time frame in which your office would complete its investigation and ultimately release its report and findings. In addition, you wrongly stated that the committee could not receive a copy of your final report because of the Privacy Act. Well, as we explained during the briefing, the Privacy Act has an express exemption for disclosing material to committee chairmen such that it is not a barrier to you cooperating with us. Your continued failure to cooperate with our oversight and apparent intention to hide information from us is more evidence that your office operates to protect the DOJ from any independent accountability. OPR needs to go too. Everybody there, Pam Bondi, hopefully cleans house. Pursuant to the rules of the House of Representatives, the committee is authorized to do this and investigate you. As stated, Congress has long considered legislative reforms for you, including proposals that would remove your exclusive authority to review allegations of ethical misconduct against DOJ lawyers. The department and your failures to give us any information demonstrate we need to know why you should exist in the first place. Now, the committee accepted your briefing as an accommodation to the department in an effort to advance our oversight. Unfortunately, though, there were several areas of inquiry about which you were unable to provide any information. And so consequently, the committee reiterates our requests. We sent the letters again. This letter serves as a formal request as well. Preserve all existing and future records and materials related to your investigation of Jack Smith and members of his team. Your office should construe this preservation notice as an instruction to take all reasonable steps. Don't shred a thing. Don't delete your phones. Don't smash them like with a cloth or hammer like Hillary. Nothing. Text messages, what the Chinese have now. Don't delete anything. As we have explained, the briefing did not alleviate any concerns about your inquiry into Jack Smith, and so get us these documents by December 18th or else. Your friend, Jim Jordan, chairman of the judiciary. So we'll see what OPR does. My guess is they're not going to turn over anything. They're going to turn over the bare minimum. It'll be redacted. They'll just wait until Trump comes in office, and they'll see if they can kick this can down the road to avoid any further and future disclosures. But I hope, man, of all things, that these people in Congress stay on this, because this is a bombshell, actually. Somebody from Jack Smith's team reported their own misconduct. That's shocking. And they continued their prosecution, and we never knew about it at all. The OPR allowed the corrupt prosecution to continue until Jack Smith authorized the investigation to begin. Surely, after all of the misconduct has been cleaned up. Now Jack Smith is running away from this because he lost, and Congress, and I hope the new FBI, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and the rest of them stay on this and get to the bottom of what happened, because these people engaged in a collusion, conspiracy to deny Trump the presidency, and they abused their office to do that, and that's a crime. We'll be here continuing to cover it, my friends. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now, let's turn our attention to Kash Patel and January 13th in Butler and our Secret Service, because things are getting spicy here as well. New FBI director appointed by President Trump named Kash Patel said he was not going to play around with the media. If they hit him and defame him and attack his credibility and legitimacy, he'll respond in kind. Well, this woman did just that, and she got a letter from Kash and his attorneys. She wrote this. She's an MSNBC contributor. She posted this, says, uh-oh, I just got a nasty gram from Kash Patel. We'll see what the letter says, and we'll also take a look at what's happening to Kash Patel, who has now been apparently attacked by Iran in a cyber attack. And there's more. A lot of reaction to Kash Patel and others in the government, including this Secret Service acting director, Ronald Rowe, got into it in Congress today. These two absolutely screaming at each other, and it was a sight to see. So we've got all that coming up and reaction. But we're starting with Kash Patel's nastygram to Olivia. She said, today, Kash Patel sent a letter to my lawyer threatening legal actions and demanding that I retract my comments on MSNBC about his unfitness to serve as the FBI director. This aligns with his threats against the media and political opponents, revealing how Kash might conduct himself if he's confirmed. I stand by my statements. I'm not retracting anything. My priority remains the safety and the security of the American people. I am not the only one who has expressed concerns about him, so why me? And so it begins. So here's Kash's letter over to her. Wrote the following from his attorney. The Binnell Law Group, December 4th, over to Olivia and Mark, her attorney, calling this a retraction demand and a document hold and preservation demand. Not playing. All right, guess what? Dear Miss Troy, this law firm represents Kashyap Patel. Litigation will be filed against you if you fail to publicly retract defamatory statements that you made about Mr. Patel on MSNBC on December 2nd. Be further advised that you should identify and preserve all hard copy and electronically stored documents, information, and data that relate in any way to Mr. Patel and your statements about him on MSNBC. On December 2nd, you, Olivia, appeared as a live guest on MSNBC and made several false and defamatory statements about Mr. Patel. Now, these comments include that Mr. Patel would, quote, lie about intelligence. And you say he would, quote, lie about making things up on operations. To the point where Mr. Patel put the lives of Navy SEALs at risk when it came to Nigeria. And you said that Kash Patel was even misinforming Mike Pence. Now, Olivia, this is a complete fabrication, and you know it is false by virtue of your former position in the White House. At no point did Mr. Patel ever lie about national intelligence, place Navy SEALs at risk, or misinform the vice president. Not only did you have actual knowledge of the falsity of this smear, so you know it, but you also did so with the malicious intent of degrading his character and of cynical self-promotion. I'm going on MSNBC tonight. This is, of course, not the first time that you've milked your former title as a means of spreading lies about your associates of President Donald Trump. You've already embroiled yourself in a lawsuit for your disgusting lies about Ambassador Rick Grinnell. So Mr. Patel demands that you retract your lies in a public statement on your X account within 5 business days of receipt of this letter. She did not do that. She said she stands by her statements. She's doubling down. I stand by my statements, Kash, so you can just shove it. I stand by him, she says. They say, unless this step is taken, Mr. Patel will take swift legal action to uphold his rights and his reputation. Now, with this letter, you were also on notice of your ongoing obligations to preserve documents related to Mr. Patel. And accordingly, you must ensure that you, your agents, and all sources of information upon you which relied are preserving all of your documents. Facebook, Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram, and more. Audio, visual recordings, and anything that relates in any way to any of these conversations. Without any limitation, this requires you to preserve all your research and due diligence you conducted, if you did any, and instructed others to conduct relating to Mr. Patel. All right, Olivia. The laws and rules prohibiting destruction of evidence apply to electronically stored information as well. Don't you be deleting your things. This includes backups. Don't delete those either. Now, please confirm receipt of this letter and confirm your intent to retract your statement within 5 business days. And please also confirm you intend to adhere to your obligations to preserve all of these records. Now, this is not a complete recitation of Mr. Patel's rights and remedies. A lot of R's right there. All of which are expressly reserved. Sincerely, your friend, Jesse R. Banal, coming at you from banal.com. And Kash Patel not playing around. So we'll see if this ultimately goes to litigation. A lot of the times, these things don't actually mature into litigation. We'll see if they do, though, based on her statements, which clearly, according to Banal, seem to hit the standard for defamation. Actual knowledge about the falsity, plus a malicious intent to harm the character of another person, doing it with a self-seeking motive to go get money and show up on MSNBC. Kash is not playing anymore. Now, he's also been attacked, apparently, in a cyber attack by Iran. It wasn't the Russians this time? That's good. At least they brought in a new character this season. That's good. The FBI recently, they told Kash Patel, the Russians are attacking you. So we're going to have to get a FISA warrant for everybody. The exact timing of the cyber attack is unclear, obviously, but it was before Trump named Patel as his choice to head the FBI. The hackers are believed to have targeted some of Patel's communications, or is it the Chinese who hacked every single telecom, basically? It's unclear whether they actually access communications. FBI doesn't want to talk about it. So the guy who's going to come replace Christopher Wray, FBI says, got hacked by the Iranians. All right. We'll see. Without specifically acknowledging the attack, Trump transition spokesman Alex Pfeiffer said, yeah, Kash was a key part of Trump's first administration. We know 3 Iranians were charged for an Iranian plot, and we're sure. All right, we'll see. So nobody really cares or trusts the FBI at all. Same goes for the Secret Service. Now, this was an interesting exchange today that was fiery. Representative Pat Fallon was there. There was a hearing today on the Butler January 13th assassination attempt of President Trump. And one of the most useless people in our federal government called Ronald Rowe, he came out and started screaming at this representative for asking him questions and holding him accountable. And we talk about this all the time. If you have the law on your side, you pound the law, right? You play to your strengths. If the law is not looking good for you, like the law doesn't work for you, but you have good facts, well, just talk about those good facts all the time. And if you have neither of those, well, then you just pound the table. So pound the facts, pound the law. If you don't have them, pound the table. That's an analogy that might apply, or a methodology that might apply to many things in your life. Just change the law, the facts, and the table, and it applies to you. But that's exactly what Rowe was doing here, screaming because he had nothing else to say. And this is a very interesting exchange here. You can tell this person might have some anger management problems, probably shouldn't be leading a group of other people if he can't even sit in Congress and answer simple questions without spiraling off like a friggin' lunatic. But here's how it went down today. It's a spicy one.
You recognize this photo?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Was that the remembrance of September 11th?
It was.
Was it in New York?
It was at Ground Zero.
Okay. Who's usually at an event like this closest to the President of the United States, security-wise?
The SAC of the detail.
Special agent in charge of the detail. Were you the special agent in charge of the detail that day?
Actually, let me address this. Could you please, staff, leave that? Oh, no, leave that one up with the circle around me. Thank you. So actually, Congressman, what you're not seeing is the SAC of the detail out of the picture's view. And that is the day where we remember the more than 3,000 people that have died on 9/11. I actually responded to Ground Zero. I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
Were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect
You were not.
for a Secret Service
that's a bunch of
member
horse hockey.
that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you're trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, that I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please.
You are out of line,
bully
Congressman.
me. Don't try to bully me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are playing
politics. I am a public servant who has served this nation, and
Pound
you
the
won't
table.
time
question.
on our day, on our country's darkest day.
Committee will come to order.
Politicize it.
Committee will come to order.
I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that day?
No, I wasn't. I was there representing
Mr.
the
Chairman,
United States Secret Service, sir.
Mr. Fallon, your time's
and did
expired.
not affect protective operations.
You know why you were
time's
there?
expired.
Because you wanted to be visible, because you were auditioning for this job.
I was there to
that
pay
you're not
respect
gonna
for a
get
fallen
till
member of
January
this
20th.
agency.
You endangered
You are
President
out of
Biden's
line,
life,
Congressman.
Vice President
You are out of
Harris's
line.
life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a
Chairman.
radio with
Mr.
you?
Fallon,
Did
your
you wear a
time
vest?
has
Did you have a
expired.
weapon?
Mr.
No.
I did, sir, and you are out of line.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
please.
All right. And we are back
You're
in
a
order
bully.
now. We are back in order now.
Thank you.
Kind of want to run for Congress after watching that, right? I think they maybe should just go down there, arm wrestle, thumb wrestle, or something, and just settle this. But it was very explosive, obviously, as you can see. And what we saw there is a person who is pounding the table. It's a great example of this. Just screaming and pretending like he's fighting for the Secret Service agency and like all the Secret Service agents are going to love him for defending them. We know what you're doing, man. You allowed Trump to get shot in the head. So scream all you want about 9/11, which was another intelligence failure from you idiots who were in charge of protecting the country. You guys are terrible at your job. So thanks for that. Yeah, and we do pray for all the men and women who killed that day. What was the FBI, the CIA, all of these agencies doing? That 2 planes flew into our buildings. All right. And then Trump gets shot in the head, and he's going to sit there and say that you're a bad person for asking him questions about all of his failures. And by the way, Roe has been in the Secret Service since 1999. We looked it up this morning on the members only stream. And they were playing to him like he got handed this big mess on his lap. He's been in there. He's been part of this degradation over the last several decades. So people like him should be the first to go. If you're part of the sinking ship, you're not part of the solution. You've been there for 30 years. Time to go. So he just pounds the table because he's got nothing else to say. But Susan Crabtree, who is like the Secret Service whisperer, which I like, that just came to me, because she gets all the secret news from them. She hears all the things. She wrote, "Scoop, Secret Service sources are incensed over this chaotic screaming match between Roe and Fallon." They're like, they can't even believe it. "They are telling me that they view Roe's angry response as a pure deflection. Roe is saying that he had a right to move the top agents assigned to protect Biden and Harris out of the protection line of duty because he worked either on or after 9/11, helping sift through the debris." Makes no sense. And if he joined in 1999, what was he there doing cleanup? Was the Secret Service there part of the 9/11 cleanup efforts? What? Makes no sense at all. Now, while that work is honorable, and the nation owes him a debt of gratitude for that, because it likely involved trying to find survivors, I'm told hundreds of Secret Service agents were called in to do that work. They were, I guess, in the weeks after 9/11. That work involved going to what is called the Fresh Kills landfill. It was not at the World Trade Center itself. So did he actually go there? I have several questions into the Secret Service press office to clarify exactly what he was referring to. Thank you, Susan. What the hell's he talking about? Also, being assigned to work on or after 9/11 has nothing to do with why he chose to be in the 9/11 in the photo op and change protective protocol by moving the top agents farther away from Biden so that he could be seen, right? He moved them away so he could have his face there. Fallon asked if he was jeopardizing Biden and Harris's lives by doing that, whether he had a gun or a radio on him. Then he started screaming, 9/11. Roe said he had a gun and a radio and claimed that the protective mission wasn't compromised. Sources say it's hard to tell if he had a gun on him during 9/11, but he's not wearing an earpiece, and that means he was not in the protective posture and likely did not have a radio on him, right? So screaming lunatic who is doing a terrible job at the Secret Service and has been doing a terrible job there for decades is moving people around so he can be in photos with Biden. All right. So that's him. Now we got questions about Kash Patel, and there's a debate that's happening right on Capitol Hill over this. Some people say Kash Patel is going to be terrible, and some people say he's going to be amazing. So here's one who is a Democrat senator called Chris Murphy from Connecticut against Kash Patel, and we'll see what Mark Wayne Mullen says in favor of Kash Patel, starting with this fella.
Trump. This announcement that Donald Trump is going to fire the director of the FBI.
Bye, Chris.
His term is not up. And put in.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that his term is not up. It's not a you get all 10 years. Here's an exception to that rule. If you're an FBI director who authorizes a raid of the incoming president, you don't get to get grandfathered in, okay? Because you raided his wife's bedroom, okay? Murphy. So there's no precedent for that to keep him on, all right? Because he did that. So now it's time for him to go.
Kash Patel, a political sycophant.
Yeah, okay. Like Merrick Garland is not of the Democratic Party.
And I don't completely understand why everybody doesn't understand how big this is. Donald Trump told us during the campaign
it is big.
That if he was going to be elected, he was going to use his power
That's why we elected him.
The Department of Justice and the FBI into a political witch hunt
operation. No, that's not what he said.
To go after.
That's your framing of it, but he is going to go after the people who broke the law there, Chris.
For his political opponents.
What you guys broke the law to target him, to remove him off the ballot, to prosecute him in 4 different jurisdictions organized by the White House itself. You were probably a part of that, which is why you're freaked out about this.
And he's doing it.
Good.
That's what
he won.
Kash Patel's qualification is to be FBI director, that he is loyal to Donald Trump, that he believes the FBI should be involved in the business of hunting down
criminals,
the political opposition to Donald Trump.
Criminals who broke the law.
What does that mean for you? Well,
we're going to have less criminals in the FBI and the DOJ who are trying to prosecute our politicians.
First, it means that there's no political dissent or speech in this country that is safe. But second, it means that the FBI is...
You're speaking right now, weirdo.
...going to get out of the business of actually going after real criminals.
Like who? January 6ers and Catholic anti-abortion activists?
Keeping you safe from gun smugglers, from drug traffickers, from corrupt Wall Street executives.
Like who?
And instead, they're going to spend all their time going after people who dare politically oppose Donald Trump, or people who think that we should actually have fair elections in this country. This is an assault on democracy, but it's also an assault on you.
You're still doing the assault on democracy thing?
Because the FBI isn't protecting you, isn't protecting the rule of law, isn't making sure our streets are safe. If somebody like Kash Patel is the director of the FBI, who has made it clear that he thinks the #1 priority of law enforcement should be to act as political police in this country. This is a big deal.
No, you guys have weaponized the FBI and the DOJ and made them into political entities. So somebody needs to come in there and strip out the politics. That's what Kash Patel is going to do. You have liberalized the entire institution. And so now reverting that back to the norm where it becomes apolitical to you feels like it's a political attack because you've so pushed the institution to the left that any change from that current domain is going to feel like it's an attack on you, but it's not. You guys have been corrupted. The American people determined that. All of your political weaponized prosecutions, no one cared about. They voted to put Trump back there. It was a veto on all of your efforts. And Mark Wayne Mullen is here saying he's happy to advocate on behalf of Kash Patel. He's going to be the right person to come in and clean house that we absolutely need.
And so what are your thoughts on him initially?
I'm thrilled. I mean, this is, he's been very outspoken about the reforms that need to take place in the FBI. He's very supportive of understanding the field agents. They're not the problem. They're fighting the bureaucracy on the 7th floor of the Hoover building anyways. And I'm very excited about this, him getting through this process. We're going to do everything we can to make that happen.
And so, I think a lot we hear from Democrats, they're worried that he might try to weaponize.
Of course. Yeah, of course the Democrats are trying to weaponize. Said he's concerned that he's going to weaponize the FBI. The Democrats are the ones that weaponize the FBI. They're the ones that came after Trump. They're the ones that that created the fake dossier reports. I mean, he's there to clean up their mess and take politics out of it.
He's going to de-weaponize
the FBI back to what they're supposed to do, and that's to look after the American people and the interests of the United States. I believe Kash is going to do that. It's foolish and absolutely zero credibility for the Democrats to even mention that he's going to weaponize the FBI.
And so, not just with him, I think with all the nominees, there's this question right now about FBI background checks for the nominees. Do you think that they should all go through that?
What I have said is that they should be held to the same standard that the Biden administration was held to, and I don't remember ever getting this question during the confirmation processes for the Trump administration team, but everybody should, all the noms should be held to the same standard that the previous administration has dealt with too.
That sounds fair.
Yep.
So that means a background check, right?
Yes. Okay. Right. All right. Appreciate it.
So that means doing a background check. Did the Biden people do that? Yeah, well, the problem is that the Biden people didn't have the FBI raiding their homes. You know what I mean? So it's kind of not the same. You kind of want to work with those people and have did the FBI spy on Biden's campaign or no? I don't think so. I think they spied on Trump's campaign. Did they create rigged narratives about Russia collusion for Joe? No, they didn't. They covered up his Ukraine collusion. So forgive us if we're not enthusiastic about the FBI solving these problems. So at the top of the FBI, Chris Wray's freaking out. Chris Murphy's freaking out. And Ronald Rowe is pounding the table because he has a lot to be fearful about. The new Secret Service director, whoever that happens to be, hopefully uncovers their incompetence and their role in allowing Trump to be shot in the head. All right, so that's a good segment there. Now, speaking of incompetence, oh my goodness. Let's talk about China. And then we'll hear from you, my friends. Here is the story. Our phones are hacked. China did it, and U.S. officials are now telling us, stop texting each other. I'm not joking. Here's what they say. Officials urge Americans to switch to encrypted apps. Because if you're texting using just regular SMS, they probably are reading those things. Amid unprecedented cyber attack that has now happened. Multiple articles on this. The White House has responded, and I've also pulled up the official warning from CISA saying that this is impacting 8 telecoms, and they're the big ones. And they're still inside the tubes. The Chinese are still inside the tubes. RCS, all of them, all compromised. Here's the background. FBI and CISA officials said it was impossible to predict when the telecoms companies would be fully safe from these interlopers. They're still inside the tubes. Amid an unprecedented cyber attack, AT&T, Verizon, U.S. officials have recommended that Americans use encrypted messaging apps moving forward. There's a hacking campaign that's happening right now. It's nicknamed Salt Typhoon. Is one of the largest intelligence compromises in U.S. history. Has not yet even been fully remediated. Officials on a news call on Tuesday refused to set a timetable for declaring the country's systems free of the Chinese. Officials told NBC News that China hacked AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen. A spokesman from China said, "Get out of here. China firmly opposes and combats all kinds of cyber attacks." Not us. But in the call on Tuesday, 2 officials, a senior FBI official who asked not to be named, thanks, and Jeff Green, executive assistant director for both cybersecurity at CISA, both recommended using encrypted messaging app to Americans who want to minimize the chances of China intercepting their comms. That's crazy. Well, our suggestion, what we have told folks internally, is not new. Encryption is your friend, whether it's on text messages or if you have the capacity to use encrypted voice comms. Even if the adversary is able to intercept the data, if it's encrypted, it's going to be impossible. The FBI said people looking to further protect their mobile device comms would benefit from considering using a cell phone that automatically gets updates, responsibly manage your encryption, and become phishing resistant. Multi-factor authentication. See, this is another concern. Like, what about your 2-factor authentications? Can they intercept that? So if they have your password, can they then also 2-factor, they can just send me the text message, send me the code. They send it, they get it, they have everything. The scope of the telecom compromise is so significant, Green said, that it was impossible for the agencies to predict a time frame when we have a full eviction. The hackers generally access 3 types of information. One type was call records or metadata, showing the numbers that phones called and when. The hackers focused on records around the Washington, D.C. area, and the FBI does not plan to alert people whose metadata was accessed. Insane. It's like our whole government. The second type has been live phone calls of some specific targets. The FBI declined to say how many alerts it had sent out to targets of the campaign, the presidential campaigns of Trump and Kamala, as well as Chuck Schumer and others. The FBI said had been targeted. The third were telecom systems for law enforcement, which allows law enforcement and intelligence agencies with court orders to track people's communications. The systems can include classified court orders from the FISA court, which processes some U.S. intelligence court orders. The FBI declined to say whether any classified material was accessed. So privacy advocates say use encryption, use Signal, WhatsApp, use Google Messages, iMessages. They can also encrypt those end to end. The FBI and other federal law. So is RCS included? WhatsApp is safe, Signal safe, probably Telegram. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies have a complicated relationship, historically advocating against it, but the FBI also supported forms of encryption as well. Even though the hacking campaign was first publicly disclosed before the election, They believe it was not an attempt to sway the results, but instead a massive but just traditional espionage operation by China to gather intelligence on America. We see this as a cyber espionage campaign. It's like, what do we even have? Like, what are we paying these people billions of dollars for security? It's wide open. In a statement to NBC News, Ron Wyden, one of the Senate's fiercest privacy advocates, criticized this. It's just insane. All right. It's like whatever they want. U.S. officials say that they still have not gotten rid of the Chinese telco hackers. They're still inside. In the most detailed account yet, security officials say spies accessed Washington records. The downbeat press briefing came more than 3 months after they caught wind of this. Someone said, given where we're discovering the activity, I think it would be impossible for us to predict a time frame on when we'll have a full eviction of the Chinese. Those agencies also got Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Senior officials from 2 U.S. agencies explained it was Salt Typhoon. It's broad and significant. It resulted in the theft of a large amount of sensitive data. They were able to penetrate the carrier's portals that law enforcement uses to submit court orders as well. They acknowledge that intelligence officials use the same portals. Now the Chinese have total access. The hackers eavesdropped on government and political targets. They've been notified. Chinese hackers had broad access to call records. AT&T, Verizon, all of us are in it. The actors stole a large volume of records. We cannot say with certainty that the adversary has been evicted. They're still inside. Much of the guidance for hardening the defenses would apply to all companies and a wide array of equipment, but one section was devoted to strengthening networks from Cisco. Chinese embassy says we didn't do it. We deny all this. Policies now require private sector cyber experts in China to report these vulnerabilities, but the White House says it goes to 8 telecoms, dozens of nations, all impacted by China. And a deputy advisor from the White House gave new info. She divulged the scope of the hack. The U.S. believes the hackers were able to gain access to a bunch of material. We don't believe any classified comms have been compromised. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So there was a risk of ongoing compromises. She said that Biden had been briefed. It's a high priority. Embassy didn't respond, but it's a mess. And here is what CISA ultimately said. Enhanced. So if you're in the tech space, if you're an intelligence person, or if you're working in IT, these are the details, and it's very detailed. Says CISA, FBI, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all warn of a cyber espionage campaign. So network engineers, here's what you can do. Investigate modifications, implement network monitoring, limit exposure of management traffic, monitor user and service accounts. If you're a network defender, do these things. Here's how you can harden your systems if you're a network engineer. It's a lot of things. Network defenders, do these. Turn off FTP. I know what that one means. And more. Cisco specific guidance. Disable Cisco's service, the Smart Install service. These Chinese, man, they hacked our systems to bits, and it's not good. So Chinese have infected the tubes. Be very careful with your text message tubes. Get encryption. And be careful what you send, because somebody might be watching. All right, my friends. Now, it's been a beautiful stream. Thank you for joining us today. If you're just joining us, let me give you a quick recap on what we talked about. Then we'll hear from you and see what you have to say. I saw some great donos come in and some new membos. Welcome aboard, new membo friends. And thanks for being here. Today, at the start, if you missed it, rewind, because we were in Fani land for the first part of the show, talking about Trump's motion to dismiss, ultimately, the Fani case, saying that the courts have no jurisdiction over it at all. We also saw that Kenneth Chesebro, who had previously taken a guilty plea, is now saying that count 15 brought by Fani is unconstitutional and also needs to be dismissed. Then we talked about Jack Smith and how he is trying to dismiss Trump's case again because his first one was so incompetent, and how the Judiciary Committee is going to be investigating a whistleblower from within Jack Smith's own team who reported on his corrupt misconduct. We also talked about Kash Patel and his defamation retraction demand to an MSNBC contributor for defaming him, and the Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, losing his mind because he's a psychopath. Then we talked about China and how they're hacking the tubes, and they probably got all of our cell phone devices and maybe logins and who knows. So be extra cautious about that, my friends. China is out there. But now it's time to hear from you, and I'm grateful to have you here. Thanks for joining. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking this video if you're on your way out. We'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully we see you then. But today, we got some great donos that came in. Thank you to our mods who are modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and beautiful and orderly. Speaking of John McGarvey, here's a nice one. Sending good Thursday vibes, my friends. Indeed. With the peaceful sloth. With the peaceful sloth. Here we are. Thank you, John. All right, we've got this one from Donut. Clipping for us. Tony Hey Munkets is coming in. Hey, it's the Munkets. What's going on? We got Perfect Pete is coming in. Diana from Florida, welcome. Liberty Bell Lyric. What's up, Just Rondo? Welcoming him in. War Mode, engaged. Sandra Sanders, Textured Puma. Pearls Pink. Brian Deason, CXLD Brand in the house. And Michelle, gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hey Munkets. Tony Hey, thank you, my friend, for bringing in 10 new membos. Hey, this one's from Glocky. Says, the DOJ has launched a secret grand jury into EcoHealth Alliance and the origins of COVID. Now we know why Fauci is going to get a pardon. Wow, that's a wild one. Okay. Yeah, we're not forgetting about Fauci or Daszak or EcoHealth at all. Ollie, what's up? Bringing in one new membo. Scott from South Carolina. Great to have you here. Ollie, thanks for bringing him in. American Truckers on Locals, on our Locals community, says, I have a suggestion for the Doge Committee, our Congress, and Mr. President Trump. I am 100% about the deportation of the illegal criminals and all those that they are bringing in, able to bring to court to be found lacking humanitarian need. If they could get Congress to shut down acceptance of migrants for the next 20 years, labeling it as a Biden-Harris border reform correction, to allow America to have time back, allow time for our culture to straighten up, probably save us $1 billion. Yeah, it's not a bad idea there, American Trucker. And I don't really like the idea of the melting pot. I think that's kind of a dumb, he's like, well, put a bunch of people together in this melting pot. It's like, well, I don't really want to be a melting pot. I want to be America. And we have a constitution, and it is America. So you come in and you can melt into our pot if you want. But it's not this amalgamation of, multiple different cultures and different ways of living here. But we have a basic operational structure here. It's free speech, due process, and the things the Constitution shares. So if you don't want to melt into that idea, then get the hell out of here. And that's kind of my concept too. And when you have a massive influx of people, you don't get to have them melt into that concept and value free speech and value the things that we do here. And suddenly we wake up in a country that looks like it does. It's not good. Hey, what's up? Cicadas in the house. Bringing in 5 new membos. Catherine Imhoff here. Welcome, Catherine. Whiskey Tango, Aaron Betancourt, and Lotus Blossom. Gifted membos courtesy of Cicada Arantia Jedediah in the house. Good to see you, Cicada. Thanks for bringing them in. Hey, here's one from Rick D. It's a nice post that says, ERO Boston is committed to keeping our communities safe, and we do that in partnership with local law enforcement. We keep dangerous non-citizens off our street. When officers don't honor them, it puts our neighbors, families, and neighbors at risk. Nice post from Rick D. What's up, Rick D? Thank you for that. Hey, Summerman says, in God we trust. Amen to that, Summerman. Thanks for the dono and the nice message. We got Tony Hay bringing in D-Quig. What's up, D-Quig? Welcome aboard. Tony Hay, thanks for doing it. Sheila Pooh says, can the defense now ask for it to be dismissed with prejudice? I'm still concerned about an attack on Trump in 2028 when he leaves office. It's tough to do that, to get prejudice attached before legally prejudice attaches, which is usually when the trial starts. So normally it's a tough ask, and you're right. You're right to be concerned about it because they could also argue that the statute of limitations is told while Trump is the president. So you're right to be concerned about that. Now, my response is that hopefully Trump cleans house so badly and shows what a corrupt prosecution these cases were with his power in the White House. He just shows us what they did. That it eliminates the possibility that they can fake it again, right? The cases are ultimately, the evidence shows that there's nothing there, is my take on it. But good to see you, Sheila. It's a valid concern. Shannon Whipkey. What's up, Shannon? Thanks for choosing to become a membo. Hitting that join button. Great to see you. We do great members-only member streams. We really tried to deliver for our members. We do streams in the morning, streams on Saturday. And so, Shannon, we'll see you tomorrow morning. American Trucker says, my previous message label, the Democrats, or what they've done to the border, let 180 other countries see it with their actions, gives us time to correct the wrongs, saving our tax dollars and bringing back our American culture. Great to see you, American Trucker. Man, I love our American truckers. I represented a ton of American truckers when I was just first starting law. All of our CDL holders. In Arizona, they pick on CDL holders. Any CDL, well, not any CDL violation, but a lot of CDL violations are class 1 misdemeanors, the same as a DUI or a domestic violence offense. It's like crazy. I talk to these truckers. They're like, I got charged with a crime. What does this mean? I'm like, well, what do I mean? They're like, what? Yeah, it's a class 1 misdemeanor. Like, yeah, like they could put you in jail for 180 days. We're like, what? For this? Yeah, it's true. It's really tough in Arizona. I don't know how hard it is in other places, but tough. Like seatbelt violations. And you want your truckers to be safe, but there's all sorts of things that truckers get picked on. And we have people on the I-40 here. Ugh, I did a ton of these cases. Cops just sit on the freeway, on the bridges, just watching the truckers just come under, watching the truckers, and they just violation, looking through the windows, violation. And you don't want truckers to be doing bad things, obviously, because if they crash, it kills people. But at the same time, we don't want them being picked on. So what's up, American Trucker? We love your people. Hey, thank you for doing that and for being here. Hey, what's up, Gally May? Gally May in the house. New supporter. Great to have you, Gally May. And that's worrisome. You better run, my friends. Thanks for becoming members. Really appreciate you joining us. We'll see you in the morning and grab this morning stream as well. Here was one from Ravicus. Says, well, we'll leave that one. Thank you, Ravicus, for the dono. We got this one from Tanya Wynn. Tanya, thank you for this. A lemon laughing out loud. We're glad the lemon is laughing. Thank you, Tanya. Thanks for being a membo, and thanks for donating to us today, supporting our work. Rick D says, yeah, just who I want to be in a high-stress tactical situation. Someone who explodes like that for a simple question. Right. Ronald Rowe. You ask him a question, he's like, 9/11! Knox Bierman, happy Thursday, all. I love the yelling in Congress. You know, they used to duel. Maybe we can get back to that. I know, it's like I might want to run for Congress. You know, especially if it's like equal. It'd be a lot of fun. Like, have you seen those new fights where it's like 2-on-2? Or like it'll be like one dude versus 2 women or something, you know? Like you could see, like the Judiciary Committee just clears. Like it's Jim Jordan versus AOC and Jasmine Crockett, you know? He could take him, by the way. He was like an all-state wrestler, so he could probably take 2 or 3 of them. But it'd be fun. Yeah, I'm down for it, Knox. I might run. Hey, what's up? One Old Guy's Opinions says the Secret Service agent there is a turd burger. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Knox says a caning. We could also do canings. Remember the caning? Charles Sumner caned another person. Yeah. Things get intense in there. This old guy says it was not all that many years ago. The explosion by Roe would have resulted in a duel. Hand grenades? Yeah, there was a duel. He got caned, man. And I thought didn't somebody get like shot or something too in the Senate? Assassination attempt? I think so. Philip Coggin says, the ironic thing about 9/11 and the intel failure is that the CIA and the FBI weren't sharing intel because of Robert Hansen selling CIA info to the Russians, from Philip Coggins. Yeah, I know. 9/11 just gets more and more interesting every year that goes by, doesn't it? Very curious. And the more corrupt the FBI gets, and the more we start to see people like Brennan and how long they've been in charge, and all the operations that Brennan created, you start to ask about 9/11. Hey, what's up, Knox? Sharing Tucker interviewing the amazing Russian foreign minister. You know the one Blinken should be talking with, but is too much of a law budget Mariposa to handle it? Tucker Carlson, yeah, man, he's back in Russia, and I cannot wait to watch that. Oh, he spoke with that dude? Sergey, yeah. Sergey. He spoke with that dude. Man, Tucker's at a whole different level. It's insane. Hey, One Old Guy's Opinions says, thank you, One Old Guy. Very nice dono. Says, traffickers and smugglers already had free run like all the criminals in every blue state. Dems stupidly, insanely, foolishly since 21 put policies that have brought the nation to one knee. Time for the USA to stand tall. You're right about that, One Old Guy. And there's a lot of people who say, Trump's losing in 2020 was like a blessing because now he's going to have the House and the Senate and all that. And I understand that, okay? And I'm not trying to throw there is that silver lining in it. But the Democrats have caused so much damage. It's quite shocking what they did in these last 4 years. Now, fortunately, I think the damage was self-defeating. People started to wake up, and we're back in maybe a better position than we would have been. But I just can't stop and pause without reflecting on the damage. And there's a lot of dead people and a lot of damage that they caused that should have never happened. And they should pay the price for that politically. Thank you, One Old Guy. This one came in from Knox. Maybe we can text in Pig Latin. Yeah, that's true. Can the Chinese figure out Pig Latin? Ixnay on the Ommunisme, Hey, what's up, Tanya Wynn? China. It's called China. I cannot. There's that one clip of Trump. It comes from China. Okay. Let's see if we can find it. It's one of my favorite. It comes from China, from President Trump. Thank you, Tanya Wynn. Hey, Via's Never Silent says, did Pelosi just buy stock in an encryption company? Probably. Who knows? Good question. Via's Never Silent. She usually does. Knox says, WhatsApp was hacked. Remember when Zuckerberg was chatting with Mohammed bin Salman for some reason? No. I guess that's right. Saudi's MBS is implicated in hacking of Jeff Bezos' phone. Oh, that's right. I do remember that story, Knox. Yeah, that's right. Hey, Rick Bing is here. Rick Bing says, 5 membos, welcome. Craig L., Sassy and Free, Scott Grizzard is here, Angela H., and John 81 in the house, courtesy of Rick Bing, bringing in 5 new membos. Thank you, Rick Bing, for doing that. This one came in from Sean Brem. Says, I bet they are covering their rear before Trump is sworn in. Not saying it didn't happen, but with the experience I had in the past, someone always saw my bank records. They claimed to be an LEO and they were trying to intimidate me. Wow. Yeah, I think that's right, Sean. They know that these were the same people that tried to rig the Trump collusion story, right? Jake Sullivan, Hillary Clinton in 2016. And their thesis is they win, and then all of their criminality gets covered up by the incoming Democrat. And so they were doing that this time. Fani, Bragg, Jack Smith, Jenna, all of them. They thought, well, as long as he loses, we can do whatever we want. He didn't lose. Now repercussions are coming. Austin Libby. What's up, Austin? Thank you for becoming a supporter. Welcome aboard. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the member stream. Sharpie Guy says, what would be grand is to have had the South Chicago MAGA folks question Rutrow. My Labrador and German Shepherd are better liars. Hobbs, my rescue shepherd, is blind, and Gracie, Marie, my big old lab lady, at least can show shame. What does Ronald Rowe have? 0. You're right about that, Sharpie Guy. They sound like great pups. And maybe we'll see them one day. Hey, Bruce Rice, what's up? 26 months as a member. Bruce Rice baby. Hello, my fellow watchers. Good to see you all. You too, Bruce. Thanks for being here for 26 months, my friend. That's a long time. Coming up on multiple babies on that one. Sketch Therapy says, why do Chinese and Iranian hackers only leak GOP data? Yeah, that's a good question. And the FBI always finds them too, Oh, FBI, it's like they're hacking you, Kash. Oh, they are. He's like, oh, you are. He's like, Chris, I can see you in here. You forgot to change your name in your little bubble. Chris, I see you're in my documents. What are you doing? Sketch Therapy, good to see you. Hey, what's up? F. Joe Biden says, are preemptive blanket pardons even legal without mentioning the crime? And isn't that just immunity? I don't think the president can do that. Yeah, they're immunity. Yeah, it's immune. And here's the example we give. Ford pardoned Nixon. Nixon wasn't charged with any crime. Anything that happened, he was good for. So it is a very powerful power. The pardon power is massive. What's up, Sketch? Became a supporter. Sketch, thank you. Welcome aboard. Great to have you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow morning. And Ray K, 34 months as a membo. That's a long time, Ray. Thanks for this. Says, hard to catch the stream from Australia. Thanks, Rob. Are you traveling there or are you living over there now? You must be traveling, right? Well, thanks for tuning in, man, from Australia. What time is it in Australia right now? Let's see if we can figure this out. Time in Australia. Let's see if it gives us an answer on that. While that's cooking, see if we can find this Trump clip, which I don't think I have found yet. Okay, so it's like 7 in Western Australia, 7 a.m., 9 a.m. in Darwin. Brisbane, it's 9:31. South Australia is 10 o'clock. Sydney's 10:31. Man, you guys got a lot of different time zones. A lot of different time zones.
Comes from China.
Okay, that was Trump. It comes, oh, here it is.
That can't happen.
Yeah, here it is. It comes from China. All right, it comes from China.
It's not going to happen. Not as long as I'm president.
Chinese virus. There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate. Yeah, please, John. Please. I have great love for all of the people from our country. But as you know, China tried to say at one point, maybe they stopped now, that it was caused by American soldiers. That can't happen. It's not going to happen. Not as long as I'm president. It comes from China. John, please.
It comes from China. All right. That's it. Next question. So thank you, Mr. President, for being clear about that and for saying China appropriately. We do enjoy it. All right. And so, my friends, those were some great donos and some comments. Let's see. We got Ray K was in the house. Thank you, Ray, for sending that one in. Let's see what else we got. Tex Rick is here. Hey, thank you, Tex Rick. Says, Rob, is there any possibility that the many bad actors in the Biden fake administration have vulnerabilities to criminal pursuits at the secretary level? Mayorkas would be a prime target for what he has unleashed. Any hope that we can claw back sanity and put these dudes in prison for crimes? Yeah, I mean, yes. So if Mayorkas and Milley and Brennan and Jack Smith and Fauci, if they're not pardoned, yeah, Trump's DOJ can come right in and investigate them. And if there's probable cause, charge them with crimes, present it to a grand jury or whatever, file a direct complaint, charge them. If he pardons them, then that's going to be a tougher battle. The question would be, Liz Cheney gets pardoned. Well, can you still prosecute Liz Cheney at a state level? There is case law and dicta that says the answer is no. The Supremacy Clause would immunize them from a state level prosecution. But I'm not sure that that's been tested thoroughly. So I would imagine if that happened with Trump, that Fani Willis and Alvin Bragg would still bring their prosecutions and say they can do that because it's state, it's federalism. So I think there is a possibility. At the same time, I don't think it's a likely possibility. I think that most people would, I think that the pardon would immunize them even from the states, is what I would think. But it's a good question. Hey, Clown World says, do you still practice law full-time YouTube or full-time YouTube? Full-time YouTube, baby. We're here. We're practicing law in the court of public opinion now. Uncle Bozy, what's up, Uncle Bozy? Said FBI official investigating Trump ties to Russia was arrested for illegal ties to Russia. But you know how that goes. I'm sure that's a real one too. Dirt Cheap says, today, jurors in the Penny trial asked the judge for the definition of recklessness and negligence. Is this a bad sign? I'm not sure. I haven't read the jury instructions in the Daniel Penny trial. It depends how it's crafted in the jury instructions. And I actually tried to find the jury instructions, a hard copy of the jury instructions, and I could not find a copy. Somebody was asking about it on Locals. I went over to the court website. They have a in New York, a public high profile cases page. Jury instructions are not in there. So I've not read them. But if he's charged with, if the charge is like intentional murder, then recklessness or negligence is a lesser degree of mental culpability. So if it's intentional murder, recklessness or negligence means they're probably considering a lesser charge, like negligent homicide rather than intentional murder. So if there's lesser included in there, they might be considering the lesser included, like he was reckless and resulted in a dead person, but he wasn't intentional or a higher level of culpability. So it depends on the jury instructions and more context, but it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing if they're thinking about convicting him on a lower level offense, right? Maybe not the high offense, but something lower. That's bad for him. What's up, Glocky? Thank you, Glocky, for sending this one in. House rejects efforts to force the release of the Matt Gaetz ethics report. Not coming out. Yeah, and since he's withdrawn, there's not going to be a lot of pressure to do that. Hey, Lady Ice says, so good that Tucker is being an actual journalist on the ground where it matters. I worry, though, that they'll go after him for acting as a foreign agent or some other BS. Do you think that they would dare? Yeah, I think they already have tried, essentially. He said that there was NSA spying on his text messages. He said that. I believe him. So I think that they would, if they could find or try to create something, they absolutely would. They're sick people. Dan B says, I have the same shirt, many of them. Hey, I got to get some more, man. These are getting pretty old. I like to buy shirts like once every 5 to 7 years, if I can help it. So I got to go get some new ones. But you're right about that, Dan. They're nice shirts, man. Travis Matthew, baby. They fit good. Nice thick collars. They're good. Glad I ran into you as I listen on my way to the toilet bowl, a.k.a. DC. Thank you, Dan. What a great compliment, man. Thanks for saying that. And man, thanks for being part of the Polo Revolution. We're going to Polo revolutionize this whole country. We're going to look so good, man. And we're going to be so professional. It's like kind of a party, but we're also here to really get professional. You know what I'm saying? It's the Polo Revolution, Dan. Thanks for joining. Look, I can see it right there. Look at that collared shirt, man. Look at that. You look good. Polo Revolution, bros. Let's go. All right, Uncle Bozy. Oh, man, Uncle Bozy sent in a comment, but it's got a gun in there, so we can't put that on the screen. So thanks for that. Hey, John, thanks for flagging it for us. Sometimes I don't put stuff on the screen if our YouTube censor, or our Chinese censors now, I guess the Chinese are controlling all the tubes now. So sometimes we don't put stuff on the screen if it might get us in trouble. So thanks for flagging it for us from John. Yeah, YouTube doesn't like it. All right, and so my friends, thank you so much for sending in those amazing donos. Very grateful to have you here as part of our community. Make small, I know, and I have to order mine special as schmediums. I say, can you please make them extra tight? It says the audience loves it the tighter the shirts are. And I always threaten to make the shirt smaller because it's funny. All right, so my friends, let's see what's happening over on X. We'll wrap it up with some X shout outs, and then we're going over to Locals to hang tight. Schmediums. Always get your schmediums. Gotta find him, though. Hey, Paul Mino! Oh, Paul. Look at this, Paul. What a nice fella. Says, congratulations, you deserve it. I got the GOAT award. Breaking news. Robert Gouveia has officially been declared the GOAT, greatest of all time, in the niche but thrilling sport of legal transcript dramatization. Legal transcript dramatization in the House. Well, thank you for that. It is something that I guess I enjoy doing. I like reading them. We have fun doing it. Thank you, Paul. Hey, thank you for that. Okay. Hey, Fred Petamonte says Jeffrey Ragsdale and Olivia Troy Look at the eyes. Yeah, can always see it in the eyes. Thank you, Fred. Hey, B. Torn says, surprised Trump hasn't had the lawsuit ready to charge Bragg Colangelo with malicious prosecution. Yeah, well, maybe that's coming up soon. And Retired Dave said, did you see Roe today? What a pathetic human. Yeah, it's a great comment, Retired Dave. I did see Roe. We just played it, and it was a rough one. Thank you for joining us on X, my friends. Thank you for the award, Paul. Very nice to have you. I almost missed some donos from Elf. Sorry about that, Elf. ELF in the house. Bringing in new membos. Thank you, Elf. Peter Fitzer, Larry Putnam, Sakins Hardnose, Laura Solomon in the house. We got Behind Rudy's Fairing, Casper Kidd, Planet Almoni, Tracy Trobu, and Big Smooth Gaming. Gifted membos courtesy of Elf in the house. Thank you, ELF, for that one and for bringing in our new friends. And yeah, there that one was. Lady Ice is sharing some Carson May photos. A beautiful, beautiful baby in the house. Baby Carson May getting so big. Thank you for sharing that, Lady Ice. And Spuds is here, says, Rob, most politicians don't have their oath of office. They are imposters and should not be able to be pardoned. Good take there from Spuds. Although the pardon power, I think, plays an important role. Trump has the ability to go in and correct a political wrong. He can pardon all the J6ers, and the people elected him to do that. So it's an important safety valve to have. And so, my friends, thank you so much for sending in all those very nice, supportive donos. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And really, thank you for bringing somebody that you know or love to come check it out. Tell them we go live and say, this lawyer keeps harassing me to invite you to the show. Can you just go? Just show up for him so he'll leave me alone. It'd be great. You can blame me all day. I'll take it. Tell him I'm harassing you to invite him over here. Thanks for inviting him. My friends, it's been a great stream spending the night with you. We're going to come back tomorrow to get into it again. We're also going to thank our amazing mods. Thank you to Playin' Hooky, to John McGarvey, to Donut, to K-Bean, to Carrie B for clipping and keeping the train on the tracks. My friends, we are going to leave it there on the night. We're heading over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to do our members only after party. If you're a YouTube member, you can join us. Grab the Telegram link in the community tab section. It's members only, so grab us and join us on Telegram. It's encrypted. And we'll see you over there. And membos, we'll see you back here in the morning on the morning stream. Otherwise, my friends, it has been a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out with us, going through the news. We're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Make it a great night. Bye-bye.